Huh? Temple of the Holy Spirit. Right here. I walk the streets asking questions. I go uptown asking questions. I walk around asking questions about 9/11. People look at me and say you're crazy. What do you mean, Building 7? Who was it said, so well read, truth is enemy of the state? I wanna live, feel so free. Lies cannot be our fate. People look at me and say you're crazy. What do you mean, Building 7? Fit in, rub body, fit in, hypnotic, post-traumatic, stress disorder. Welcome to the new world order. People look at me and say I'm crazy. What do you mean, Building 7? Demonize, don't think about it. Ostracize, don't think about it. Demonize, you can't even think at all. People look at me and say you're crazy. What do you mean, Building 7? I walk around asking questions. I go uptown asking questions. I look around asking questions. I go to work asking questions. People look at me and say you're crazy. What do you mean, Building 7? People look at me and say you must be crazy. What do you mean, Building 7? Thanks a lot. A song about a building.
Number 7, perfect number in the Bible, the Holy Spirit.
Here's a song about those things that seem to be in our atmosphere.
If we can watch out for the cameras here.
We're not quite sure all of what's up in our atmosphere.
What you might want to do is put something.
Anyway,
here,
got me thinking one day.
Or something here so people don't walk through it or something.
What is this stuff
This is the
they're
drawing.
spreading, gridding us with?
What about tape?
That's right.
What about tape?
Anyway, here's a little ode to chemtrails. I look up in the sky, it's like a dream. There's something going on above, and so it seems. The clouds, the planes round my door. What are they doing? They're doing it for. ask the questions and I want to know the reasons why. I look up and see ribbons in the sky, the sky. That's right, the sky, the sky. There's ribbons in the sky. I look up in the sky, it's like a dream. There's something going on above, and so it seems. The clouds, planes all around my door. What are they doing it for? I ask questions and I want to know the reasons why. I look up and see ribbons in the sky, the sky. That's right, the sky, the sky. Ribbons in 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 the sky. Yeah. Thank you very much. We're going to have lots of speakers today, and thanks for everyone for showing up.
Thanks, Brad. Good stuff. Thank you. Yeah, I saw you there.
Go ahead there. Actually, that mic's on.
This mic's okay?
Yeah, just gotta have
Test. Okay. You're good?
Hold on a second.
Get nice and friendly. That microphone, make love. Make love to it.
Is this one? Test, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming to our 3rd annual Freedom and Solutions Rally. Yeah. We've got a whole list of very excellent speakers. We had some people travel from Vancouver and Nanaimo just to come down and see us and give us some powerful speeches. So first off, thank you to everybody for traveling here and all of our local residents for showing up. All of this stuff is going online. We also produce a television show, so hopefully this stuff will get on cable access television with our television show Freedom Free for All. In case you don't know, my name is Josh Steffler, and I'm with We Are Change Victoria, one of the co-organizers. With an awesome group, We Are Change Victoria, powerful people, advocates for liberty, freedom, solutions. We're not just here to talk about the problems today. This isn't a protest. This is a rally to gather people that have solutions to the problems we face. All too often, these protests and stuff, they can outline the problems very effectively and they can convey the anger that people are feeling, but then they leave without viable solutions or without knowing what to do. So there's nowhere for them to vent their anger, or even worse is some of the solutions that they leave with are solutions of violence and violent change, which never That's not a solution. Violence is another problem. So definitely we're here to advocate for peaceful solutions. And I just want to say that all of the speakers here are independently representing themselves. Some people are from We Are Change Victoria. A lot of people know the crew at We Are Change Victoria, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are part of it. They're just, everybody's here representing themselves. So glad to see so many people here interested in talking about freedom, interested in talking about solutions. We don't have a long time, but we do have a good time, and we have a few good speakers. First up, I want to introduce Greg Hartnell, a concerned citizen, a historian, a native-born Victorian, and an independent journalist. And he's going to talk to us about the history of eugenics. So let's welcome Greg Hartnell.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to thank the Creator for all of this. I believe we are creatures of love, and we are conceived in love. We propagate our human race through love. And so basically, like the hippies said in the 60s, it's all about love and peace, man. But not for the globalists. The globalists have a different agenda. It's called Agenda 21. And Agenda 21 is the so-called governance aspect of the ongoing New World Order tyranny, under which we're all suffering, as a matter of fact, right now. It's not a future proposition. It's a de facto reality. As Rosa Koire says, we deal in conspiracy facts. And the fact of the matter is, Agenda 21 is a depopulation program. It's based on a pernicious, anti-human, eugenicist, global genocide agenda. That's what it is, folks. They want most of us gone, gone, gone. 90% reduction in the human race is what Agenda 21 calls for. And this is based primarily, I mean, it goes back to the dawn of time, I suppose. From the Garden of Eden, there's always been a cosmic battle going on between the forces of good and evil. And I would suggest to you, without a shadow of a doubt, Agenda 21 is evil. It's death cultism, because it traces its philosophical origins right back at least to the time of Reverend Thomas Robert Malthus. Now, he was an Anglican prelate, and he was also an economist, apparently, and he was also a statistician. You'll notice with all the eugenicists, or quite often, eugenicists are mathematicians, scientists, they're statisticians, they collect statistics, they're obsessed with quantification of data. That's what scientific, evolutionary depopulationists are all about. They want to improve the human race, supposedly. We're not good enough. There's something wrong with us. We're useless eaters. And so we have to be exterminated. Our carbon footprint is too big. Somehow that's threatening the ecology. And Mother Earth is imperiled. Now, who is Mother Earth? Gaia, they call her, or at least some of them do. So, who was Gaia? Gaia was an ancient Greek goddess of the earth. That's what she apparently represented the earth. And so for a while there in the ancient pre-Christian Hellenic history, some people worshipped Gaia. Let's just put it that way. And then latterly there was an academic revival, and some historians, particularly naturalists, feminists, and people who had an anti-human agenda decided that Gaia was the planet. They want to worship the planet and at the same time control all the resources, including human resources, on Gaia. That's what they want to do in Agenda 21. So what I'm suggesting to you is there is a line of development in philosophical thought, in intellectual history, and it goes from Thomas Robert Malthus to Charles Darwin and his Origin of the Species theory. That's a theory pertaining to selection of supposedly the species sort of evolve somehow themselves. And so what the naturalists are always worried about is species extinction. They can't explain it other except in terms of some of them adapt better to circumstances that they find around them, and so the ones that adapt to thrive and the ones that are not able to adapt die. They're obsessed with death. They're obsessed with the idea of species extinction, and so that gets into conservation biology. Okay, I've got 5 minutes. Thank you very much. And that gets into the whole obsession that the ecologists have with preserving what's left of what they call diversity, biodiversity. Staving off the inevitable extinction that will happen of all these other little critters because of us, because of our nasty human intrusions into their biosphere. Now, they also have another nutty idea in Agenda 21, and that's called the Wildlands Project. Has anybody ever heard of the Wildlands Project? Yep. Nature needs half. Check that out. I'm giving you references to go and do your homework here now, folks. So when you listen to this video and I say something like Wildlands Project, that's a reference to a globalist idea that's incorporated into Agenda 21. And what does it mean? It means that in all these parks, for example, that we've got in the Capital Regional District, if you go to the Capital Regional District Parks Department website, you'll see their new sustainability strategy. And it's based on nature needs at least half. Half of what? Half of all the water and land resources in the region. That's what they want. So they start with the Parks Department, the Capital Regional District Parks System. They want to sequester from any human intrusion whatsoever at least 50% of the Capital Regional District Parks System. That's phase one. Phase two is a lot more sinister, a lot more tyrannical, and frankly should really terrorize the local real estate development industry. And that is, these people in the Capital Regional District Parks Department want to control fully at least half of all land and water resources in the Capital Regional District. Now think about that. That's not just the parks I'm talking about here now. That's not just the parks, folks. That's at least 50%. And why do they want at least 50%? To maintain the supposed balance between Mother Nature, which will be sequestered and off limits to human intrusion of any kind, and us. Why? Because we screw things up, apparently, every time we have anything to do with Gaia. I suggest to you the whole thing is pernicious, it's evil, it's a very anti-human agenda, because when you get down to it, at the United Nations, everywhere they go now, in concert with the World Health Organization, the International Bank, the World Bank. John Perkins wrote all about it in his book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. They go to these poor countries and they give them sterilizations. They give them abortifacients. They give them contraception. They give them so-called family planning. You're going to be an educated middle-class woman if you do what we say. You're not going to have more than 2 babies. That's it. Otherwise, your motherland or your fatherland is not going to get the loan from the big globalist bank. It's evil, folks, and we've got to stop these eugenicists. They've creeped into all our municipal governments and the sustainability planning departments. So that's where you find them, folks. Did you hear what I just said? They're going to be taxing us for our rainwater. The Creator creates the rainwater and the sunlight. We don't get enough of the latter. And we're all getting sick because we have 22% less good, healthy solar radiation here happening because of the chemtrails. So I'll let you go into the science and the mystery and the so-called governance of all that. And God bless you all. I love you all. And it's great to see John here tonight, or this afternoon. Thank you for, and I remember Clackwine.
Thanks, Greg. That was great. So our next speaker is Paul Stein. He is a social change artist and the executive producer of our television show, Freedom Free for All, member of We Are Change, and his speech is going to be about freedom. So, without any further ado, Paul Stein. Thanks, Paul.
I'm a shorty, so I gotta keep this thing a little low. All right, I'm gonna speak a little bit about freedom today to start us off. A lot of people think freedom's free, and that the word free in freedom means it's free and that you can do whatever you want. And I'm here to oppose that. I'm saying that it's not. Freedom isn't free. Freedom takes hard, diligent, and continuous effort to achieve freedom. It's a fine balancing act. Freedom is a two-way street. One way is respect, and the other is responsibility. That's how you achieve freedom. We need respect for ourselves. We need respect for our parents. We need to respect children. We need to respect the police. And we need to respect the natural order of this world, including the environment. We need to respect the countless generations that proposed a society that follows the rule of law and respects the rule of law. And we need to respect the price they paid to achieve these concepts we call individual freedom and liberties. We need to respect the sacredness of the family unit and its place in a free society. We need respect in order to serve the community that will protect the individual and their individuality. We need respect for what we don't know. and for the honor that comes with knowledge and experience that will propel us to become better and bigger and stronger individuals. We need to respect opinions and the freedom to speak such opinions, even when they contest history, authority, or our very own ego. We need to respect conflict and the result that is produced from conflict. For who knows where I would be if I never respected the cognitive dissonance and conflict I battled when I learned about 9/11 and all the other historical lies that have brainwashed our society with toxic manipulation. We need to be responsible for our actions, for our language, for our choices that we make and the choices that we don't make. We need to be responsible to improve our own health, our own happiness, and the direction we take our lives. We need to be responsible to find solutions that work for us and for the community around us, because without the protection of the community, there can't be that free individual that has the freedom to speak. We need to be responsible from the moment we awake, in more than one term, and to the moment we rest our heads. For everything we do and we do not do creates a causation that affects others around us. We are beings of causation. We need to be responsible for the effects we cause. We need to be responsible to educate the children of the future what freedom is and how to exercise their rights. We need to practice the art of freedom sword fighting amongst each other so that we learn how to stand our ground, stand in our power with honor, bravery, and compassion. We need to be responsible to forgive those who do not know what they do, and for those who use blame as a scapegoat to justify their actions. Forgiveness is not excusing one's action or the pain they've caused. It's actually powerful technology that heals ourselves to overcome the repetitious hate, blame, guilt, and punishment we relive and replay in our minds on a daily basis. It's not about forgetting, it's about forgiving. Most of all, we need to be responsible to continuously educate ourselves and to improve our cognitive skills and to train ourselves in the art of humaning as a verb. We are teachers, and it's our responsibility to manifest the world we want to create, not react to the emotional roller coaster stupor that has controlled society for hundreds of years. All of us here are leaders. And in this moment of truth, it's our responsibility, like it or not, to teach others how to behave as civilized human beings, being compassionate, caring, understanding, respectful, happy, loving, and honorable. It's our responsibility not only to love ourselves and love what we do, but to it's not only our responsibility to love ourselves and what we do in this precious moment we live, but to love our neighbors as ourselves. For love is the only thing that you can give away and end up getting more back. In fact, love is the creative force of the universe. There's no two ways about it. So when we drive down the road to freedom, we owe a duty to protect the road and the rite of passage for others to travel on. For we did not create the road to freedom. It's been paved with blood, sweat, and sacrifice of people we will never ever know. And hopefully this road to freedom will continue to be built with your legacy for future generations to travel on. The key to this road to freedom is education and replacing old knowledge with new knowledge. For knowledge is power, and with this power comes great responsibility. And although it may be tough to change and renew our beliefs and opinions, I'm sure all of us here are slowly getting used to it. So let's hear it for change, because we are change. So remember, freedom isn't free. Freedom takes hard, diligent, and continuous effort to achieve. It's a fine balancing act. I'd like to take this moment quickly to invite you to a workshop that's happening on November 1st and 2nd here in Victoria that will help you understand how you can improve yourself by learning the rule of law. We Are Change Victoria is proud to present a two-part presentation of the most comprehensive information about constitutional law, the hierarchy of law in Canada, personhood, and hidden documents discovered about our constitutional right to property, presented by David Kevin Lindsay. As I said, freedom isn't free. There's always a cost, and David has paid the price in his 23 years of resisting unlawful authority. He's had over 300 courtroom appearances, as well as many successful wins in his legal battles. The main thing he's done is he's helped others achieve their goals and help them win, and that's important. So if you want more information about this event and how you can learn more about your rights, your constitutional right to property, which includes your labor, see me down here and I've got some tickets for you. And one thing that I got to say lastly is that knowing your rights is one thing. There's an old saying that says 99% of life is showing up. I'd say the 1% is finishing. So in relation to freedom, 99% of life is knowing your rights. It's the 1% that exercises them. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. So we're moving along great, and our next speech is going to be done by Justin from We Are Change. Thanks, Justin.
I'm a Sasquatch, so I need it up a little higher than some of our vertically challenged friends here. Good afternoon, Victoria. Hey. Are we feeling free yet?
Getting there.
No? Would you like to know how you can get free?
Yeah. Go for it.
Let's have a show of hands. How many people here today know that we have a constitution?
No, we don't really.
Okay, a few do.
Not really.
How many people have read our constitution? Okay, not quite as many. Did you know that our constitution, did you know that there are constitutionally guaranteed unalienable rights in our constitution that are being trampled daily by the governments and agents of Canada? One of the keys to freedom is knowing what your rights are and how to enforce your God-given, constitutionally guaranteed inherent rights. There are two very important sections of our Constitution that I'd like to bring out to you today. One is found at section 52, where it states, "The Constitution of Canada is the supreme law of Canada, and any law that is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution is, to the extent of the inconsistency, of no force or effect." So that means that if you're going up against authority, you have to challenge their authority, because they're going to tell you, oh, this is a law, you have to follow it, when it's not a law. It may be a statute, a regulation, but it's not a law. Next section of the charter that I'd like to draw to your attention is section 32. This one's good. The application of charter. This charter applies to the Parliament and Government of Canada in respect of all matters within the authority of Parliament, including all matters relating to the Yukon Territory and Northwest Territories, and to the legislature and government of each province in respect of all matters within the authority of the legislature of each province. So the Constitution is the supreme law of Canada, and no law can be written that abridges or abrogates the rights guaranteed in the Canadian Constitution. And section 32 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms states that it only applies to the government and its agents. So it doesn't apply to the rest of us, right?
Right.
Wrong.
Oh.
When you applied for your social insurance number, you dutifully checked off the box that said Canadian resident, thinking that it meant you were legally domiciled in Canada. But according to Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition, a resident can mean resident agent. So you gave the government the ability to presume that you are an agent of theirs and subject to all their petty acts and statutes. Likewise for your driver's license, your care card, your passport, and any other government-issued identification or benefit card. So you've given the government the ability to presume that you work for them. So how does that knowledge help us claim our freedom, you ask? I say claim because we have never been free. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe is quoted as saying, "None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free." Wake up, people. We are de facto slaves. So we have to claim our freedom by learning what our rights are and not be afraid to stand up for our God-given, unalienable, inherent rights and know that we have been lied to, we have been bullied, and we have been robbed by the so-called authorities, and call them out for the criminals that they really are. The powers that be are quickly becoming the powers that were, and they will try to tell you that it is law until you push back and say, "No, I do not consent." Then they back down and go away, but not before. Take back your power by standing up to the tyranny that is our present reality. Look around the world, you can see it for yourself. Stop watching TV, that zaps your power. The world over, people are not free, yet the people of Iceland took back their financial freedom by jailing the criminal politicians and the banksters. And they told the international banksters to take their fraudulent derivative debt and stuff it. The country of Iceland is on a better footing economically than any other country in the world. We have to do the same thing. So get to know and stand up for your rights. They're in our Constitution. They're in our Charter and Rights and Freedoms. We have the right to travel. We have the right to commerce. We have the right to be free of being molested by the government and its agents. If you see someone being harassed by the so-called authorities, get out your damn camera and start videotaping it, because you might be the next one that's being harassed by the so-called authorities, and maybe somebody will haul out their camera and record what they're doing to you. Nice. We have to stand together to fight tyranny whenever and wherever it rears its ugly head. So in closing, I'd just like to say, wake up, know your rights, learn how to enforce them. And a good way to learn is to come out to our We Are Change Victoria meeting every Sunday night at 7 p.m. at Gorgeous Coffee on Gorge Road at Tillicum. We're also doing video screenings at the same location. Check it out at wearechange.org, wearechange.victoria.org, or our We Are Change Victoria Facebook page for times and what's being shown. So enjoy the rest of today. Hopefully Mother Nature gives us a bit more sunshine, and be free.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Justin. My name is Greg Hill. I'm the co-chair for We Are Change Victoria. It's an honor to be here for the 3rd annual Freedom and Solutions Rally. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, hailing from Vancouver, British Columbia. He is a champion of freedom and liberty, Mr. Jamie Scott. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you to the organizers for allowing me to come here today and share some popular and unpopular solutions. The hosts of this event require us to bring solutions. Solutions arise when we establish our needs and then realize that those needs aren't being met, causing us to rightly identify that as a problem, which demands the necessary solutions. So first we must establish what we need. Certainly, no one man could compile a complete list, but I'm going to outline a few needs today that may not be top of mind, but that are nonetheless vital if we want to change the trajectory of our world. What do we need? We need to legislate honesty in politics. Recently, a police officer in Alberta made waves when he decided to run for city council on a platform of requiring polygraph testing for all of our politicians. His words. He said, police are held to a higher standard because the public expects so much from us to maintain the integrity of our system. But when we see scandals involving senators, people respond and say that they're not shocked. Voters are not shocked when they find out politicians have lied to them. So that's on us. We have to raise our expectations of our politicians. Every single police officer on this continent is subject to polygraph tests. Now, with all the uncertainty surrounding these tests, one thing definitely is certain. Either the cops shouldn't have to take them, or all of our politicians should. The standards of honesty required from all of our public officials must be equally elevated to the same level. We need to provide our disabled, returning veterans with a permanent lifetime disability pension. We need to rip up the new Veterans Charter, which was passed through the House of Commons unanimously by all parties working in concert to fight against their own troops. Tell us, Mr. MP, why the returning soldier who lost his limbs shouldn't have the exact same pension, at least, that you do. We need to maintain a free choice on flu vaccines.
Yeah. Just say no to GMO and to the NWO.
We need strict laws surrounding food, water, and air pollution. Talk about GMO foods. I just want to quote Josh Steffler from last year, because he does indeed see the biggest picture. He spoke about genetically modified foods, but he didn't debate the science or the health of these foods. Rather, he said simply, you want GMO foods? That's great. That's fine. I don't want them. But the problem with demanding government solutions to things like GMO foods is the same authority that you want them to have to say you can't grow GMO is the same authority to say you can't not grow GMO. It's the same authority to say you have to grow this. You don't have the property rights. The government dictates your property rights and demands what you grow. So be careful when people come offering solutions that are dependent on force, that are dependent on coercion, that are dependent on you surrendering your individual authority to a collective that is designed to use force against our fellow human beings. Those are the words of a man who's focused. We need to nationalize the creation of our federal currency and credit. We need to retire our national debt. And we need to stop killing. We need our MPs to have a free vote in the legislature. No longer can they be made to toe the party line or follow their master on every vote. This change can come immediately without the involvement of the voters. This can happen tomorrow internally from the MPs by simply summoning the integrity and the courage to get off their knees and tell their leader that they won't participate in this type of system any longer. Only an MP can do that. Call yours and tell him to start representing you instead of his party. We need to get our governments out of the vice business. Drugs, gambling, prostitution. A government that relies on the revenues derived from these destructive forces is already bankrupt morally. We need to end corporate donations to our police forces. Every tool that our police need should be provided by the government alone. We need to stockpile, as a nation, gold and silver bullion. Gold is money. Years ago, Canada sold off all its gold reserves. And do you know who they sold it to? The answer is no, you don't. We need a moratorium on home, factory, and farm foreclosures for the duration of the global economic crisis. We need to create a civilian security council with the power to veto destructive legislation before it is signed into law. We need to create a Canadian Special Reserve Force, a legion of volunteers, nationwide, coordinated, on call, fully trained to assist first responders in fires, floods, and earthquakes. When the flood hit Calgary, we should have been there. And when the earthquake hits Vancouver, we should be ready. And we need to raise our measuring stick. Stop comparing our cities and our country to anything other than our own highest potential. And to assist us in all this, we turn once again to the press. It was the Pope who said, "The means of social communication should contribute to the establishment of justice, freedom, and solidarity in the world." Media producers have a responsibility towards media consumers. Above all, they must truthfully inform. This is a massive undertaking. One so important that President John F. Kennedy wrote a speech entitled "The President and the Press," which he delivered to the press April 27th, 1961. I'm going to leave you today with JFK's words. They're on my website. You can hear them. He said, "The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it is in my control. It requires a change in outlooks, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means to expand its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Yeah, one sec. I'm just going to switch the tape.
Okay. Just hold on.